Now we welcome Mike Ader to our pulpit.
So I'd like to start with God's word for us today, starting from Psalm 11. In the Lord, I take my refuge. How can you say to me, flee like a bird to the mountain? For look, the wicked bend their bows. They set their arrows against the strings to shoot from the shadows at the upright in heart. When the foundations are being destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord is on his heavenly throne. He observes everyone on earth. His eyes examine them. The Lord examines the righteous, but the wicked, those who love violence, he hates with a passion. On the wicked he will rain fiery coals and burning sulfur. A scorching wind will be their lot. For the Lord is righteous. The Lord loves justice. The upright will see his face. From the prophet Isaiah, chapter 28. Therefore hear the word of the Lord, you scoffers who rule this people in Jerusalem. You boast, we have entered into a convent with death. With the realm of the dead we have made an agreement. When an overwhelming scourge sweeps by, it cannot touch us, for we have made a lie our refuge, and falsehood our hiding place. So this is what the sovereign Lord says. See, I lay a stone in Zion, a tested stone, a precious cornerstone for a sure foundation. The one who relies on it will never be stricken with panic. I will make justice the measuring line and righteousness the plumb line. Hail will sweep away your refuge, the lie, and water will overflow your hiding place. Your covenant with death will be annulled. Your agreement with the realm of the dead will not stand. When the overwhelming scourge sweeps by, you will be beaten down by it. As often as it comes, it will carry you away, morning after morning, and by day and by night, it will sweep through. And finally, from Luke's Gospel, chapter 6. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? As for everyone who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice, I will show you what they are like. They are like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. And when a flood came, the torrent struck that house, but could not shake it, because it was well built. But the one who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. The moment the torrent struck that house, it collapsed, and its destruction was complete. What is the one thing from those three scriptures from the psalmist who wrote his piece some 3,500 years ago, and to the prophet Isaiah who wrote his like 3,000 years ago, and from Luke some 2,000 years ago? What did they have in common? What did they all three talk about in common? Anybody knows? It's one word particularly that they all mentioned. Foundation. The life-giving value of a foundation. We all have a foundation in our lives as individuals. Agreed? Yeah, everybody has a foundation, whatever it might be. Do you know what yours is? How many people, if I came around, could tell me exactly what is the foundation of your life? The most basic bottom line for you. The center of the very center of everything that you do and everything that you say and all your friends and all your family. What is the very core of your being? Your family? You know. That's good. Love? That's good.
Kindness.
Kindness? Joy.
Joy.
Joy. Yeah, I like that. So I would say, if you don't know what your foundation is, there's a chance you might not have one. And that's not a good thing. Because if you don't have a foundation, the first shiny thing that comes floating by, the first grifter selling snake oil, is just going to take you right away. And you're going to float down some path that you don't really have anything to do with. This is the first time that I've been here since Pastor Amy left. And I haven't really heard anything about how the search is going for new leadership. I'm assuming that you're working hard at bringing in new leadership. And for those that are on the committee that are doing the research for the new pastor, I would have one piece of advice, and that is if you're looking to replace Amy, give up. Just give up. You've seen the best that the Moravian Church has to offer. But you will find someone, and you will whip them into shape and rebuild. Because as good as Amy was, as smart, as compassionate, as talented as she was never the foundation of the Waconia Moravian Church. Just like every good pastor, and you guys have had a string of incredible pastors here, none of them ever made themselves the center, the foundation of this church. That's always stayed in your hands. And you all are still here. So you are going to continue doing God's work here in Waconia for a long time once your new leader is on board. Most of you know me a little bit, and I am nothing like the good Bishop Amy. I have no PhD. I'm not an adjunct professor of theology at a private college. My father was not a religious role model for anyone. At my core, at my center, I am a builder. 30 years as a carpenter and a building contractor, 50 years building furniture and blower doors, and lately a few slightly above average custom cars. So I'm not going to try to preach the sermon that I think Amy would have preached if she was here today. Because unlike Amy, I'm old. And because I'm old, I'm wise enough to stay in my lane. Don't go to Waconia and try to preach Old Testament. Stay in your lane. Preach what you know. And as a builder, something I know a little bit about is foundations. Everything in this world that stands has a foundation. This building is built on a whole bunch of huge boulders that were dragged here by horses 150 years ago, or whatever it is, and placed one at a time by hand. And here 150 years later, the place looks pretty good to me because we have a good foundation. The city is built where it is because it is founded upon that fishing hole over there, Lake Wakania. And Lake Wakania has attracted people for thousands of years. People were coming to this lake in this area. And that's the foundation of why Waconia is where it is. If you go underneath the IDS building, downtown Minneapolis, I don't know how many stories it is. It's a lot. If you go in the basement, from the basement you can go to the basement. From the basement you can go to the basement, to the basement, to the basement, to the basement. 14 stories. The foundation in that building is 140 feet deep. Now, they didn't just do that to waste money. They knew that's what it was going to take to hold that structure, however many hundred and whatever stories it is. They knew in order for that to stand, that's what they had to do. We do whatever it takes to get the foundation right. Because if we don't get the foundation right, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what kind of siding, doesn't matter how good the windows are, doesn't matter. Because the building will not stand. It is the foundation that gives strength and stamina and capacity to everything in this world. And I believe that every single one of us has a foundation, and it's based on a number of things. We're all given certain things at birth, right? My grandfather was a carpenter from his teenage years until the day he died. That man made sawdust, and he built stuff. It's no coincidence that DNA that I got from my grandfather has sprung in me and taken seed. So my genealogy, my DNA, has a lot to do with my foundation. But it also has a lot to do with choices that I make. And I may or may not move into those things that I was perhaps born into, because I think God gives us a package too. I think we're all sent here. What if Yoko never decided to play the piano? You know? I mean, that is a gift from God that she shares here at Waconia every week and over at the school during the week. And she couldn't do that if God hadn't planted that gift in her. So we all have gifts, and then we all make decisions about things we like to do. Well, I'm going to be a fisherman because I like to fish. And maybe I'm not any good at it, and maybe God didn't create me to be a fisherman, and maybe my DNA isn't to be a fisherman, but dang it, I love to fish, so that's what I'm going to do. We have a lot to say about how we build the foundation for our lives. Can you imagine if everybody on the planet figured out what God's gift was when they were created? We all play a part in God's program for building the kingdom, right? We've all got a part to play. If everybody could figure out what it is God wants from me and then just did that. Can you imagine what it would be like to live in a place where everybody cooperated, did their thing, and was happy? It's a stretch because we don't live in a world that's much like that at all. And many of us choose to do what feels good, what we like. And most people who do that, maybe they like to play sports, and maybe they don't have a gift for it, but they continue to do it, play intramural sports and play, over 50 league or whatever, and have fun with it, and that's okay. Those people, a lot of them do okay, and a lot of people have a lot of ego, and it gets in the way, and they say, I'm a decent salesman. I'm going to become the biggest salesman ever. I'm going to sell more and make more money than any salesman ever has. And so they commit their whole life, their energy towards being a salesman and making money. And most of those people too, they do okay, and they make a lot of money, and they get a winter place in someplace warm, and they're happy, and good for them. And then there's some people that live lives of what we used to call quiet desperation. People who just can't figure it out. Just don't know what to do with their lives. And they bounce from one thing to another, and they look to other people, and they look to the culture, and they say, what do you want me to do? What should I be? What should I do? I don't know. And they bounce through their lives, and they never look inside to try to find a clue of who they should be. And then there's a few that just fall right into that groove that God has laid out for them. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is the first one that comes to mind. There is a guy that, as far back as we can go, lived a life that couldn't have been scripted better to be a man of God. He walked the walk that he talked. And he was a living example for everybody around them. And there are others that are so gifted at what they do that you know that they have found the place that God wanted them to be. So all these people get through life, and a lot of them are happy, and everything goes along smoothly until the storm hits. Any thrown together foundation made out of scrap cardboard or whatever that you stand on, or that a building stands on, or that anything stands on, anything will work until the rains come, until the wind blows, until somebody dies, until your country no longer feels like the country that you signed up to live in. This is when the foundation starts to do its job. And hopefully, if you've built your foundation on solid rock, you will weather the storm, while others will be washed away in the current. Personally, I was born a white male in Carver County, Minnesota, USA. And those simple facts have given me tremendous unearned opportunity to be and to do whatever I wanted to do. And most of the things that I wanted to do, that my heart tells me I should do, those things were all supported by my community. I was never an athlete. I never wanted to be an athlete because I never had in my heart the urge to hit somebody. And if you're going to be a good athlete, you have to go in there with the attitude that says, I can take that guy. And I never had that attitude. I just want to help that guy. And that was supported. I became a manager for the sports teams because all my friends played sports. And so I became the manager, and I carried the water and the towels, and I helped out however I could and got to hang around with my friends. And I wanted to be a drummer. And somehow God put people in my life that allowed that to happen. And I got to make music with a bunch of poor schleps that had to put up with me for most of my life. And everything that I wanted to do that came from my heart, somehow the community, family, the people around me supported me to do those things. However, if my underpinnings, if my foundation is built on the community, on the culture, on the population around me, here in 2025, February 2nd, I have just stepped off the edge of the abyss because I find myself in a country that celebrates dishonesty, a country that worships hatefulness, that frolics in vengeance and violence, and respects only ego and domination and wealth beyond imagination. Those are the new gold standards of the country that I live in. And I feel like I am lost in dismay, confusion, and alienation. And some days, brothers and sisters, I feel like I can't even breathe. I feel like the air itself has become toxic. And just to breathe challenges my soul. In the wink of an eye, the foundation of the nation I've lived my life in has vaporized. The Constitution, poof. The Bill of Rights, it's a detail, don't worry about it. The fundamental rule of law, oh, that law doesn't apply to me, doesn't apply to you either. Remember, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Hundreds of years, millions of people have come to this country and were greeted by those words before they even got off the ship. That golden door, my friends, has been slammed, locked, and deadbolted in the wink of an eye. Fortunately, my foundation is not built upon the drifting whims of my fellow pilgrims on this earthly journey. I've not yet taken the bait of America first. No, I love my country. I would fight, I would die for my country. But America will never be the first thing in my foundation. I have a foundation much deeper than that. Because America can shift in a heartbeat. I better have a foundation that's deeper. I have built way too many buildings to build my life on a foundation of shifting sand. My foundation, my center, my core is still built on the one who speaks of love and peace, who blessed the poor and the peacemakers, the meek and the merciful, whose actions show compassion and mercy. Heard any of these words lately coming out of our government? Whose legacy is hospitality and humility. What happened to humility? I think it might have died with Jimmy Carter. Whose call is to treat our neighbors as we ourselves would be treated, and even down to our enemies. My foundation is built on the one who calls us to welcome the stranger, and who shared everything he had, even his very body, who even today calls us into physical communion with him, who asks us not for our voices and our approval and our clicks and our likes and our friends, but who invites us to welcome his very being into our minds, our bodies, our lives, that we might become his hands and feet, and his truth might once again rule in the hearts of mortals. Amen.